Welcome to Make Water Your Business. Today our goal is to go through what we call drinking problems. With all of the water issues that are going on in the world right now, it's imperative that we take a few moments to look at the alternatives that we have with regard to staying properly hydrated. And as background at the beginning of this, I just want to point out that proper hydration, that means clean living water that has been properly mineralized, is one of the primary cornerstones of your health. So if you're struggling with any of the issues of modern society, right now over 50% of people in North America are dealing with high blood pressure related issues. Weight gain has become a significant issue in the overall health of the population. Diabetes, brain-related disorders, cancers, the list goes on and on. The vast majority of these things can be dealt with in a primary way if you make the art of hydration a cornerstone of your life. And basically what we're talking about is 50% of your body weight in ounces daily as an intake number. But one of the problems that we've got right now is with all of the other issues that are going on, the ability to be able to gain access to clean water that hasn't been inculcated with microplastics, nanoplastics, forever chemicals, and especially one classification within forever chemicals, phthalates, that are causing significant issues in hormone disruption and a series of issues behind them with regard to even the body's natural ability to heal itself, let alone to reproduce. So let's go through the options that we've got with this as a framework, understanding that over the course of the next 5 years, it's projected worldwide that we're going to go from about 2.4 billion people on the planet that don't have access to good, clean drinking water enough for sustainability. And that number is going to increase or double over the course of the next 5 years. It's going to go from regions that we expect there to be water problems in to regions that have historically never had water supply issues. And as these critical issues begin to unfold in front of us, there's a limited amount of influence that we have. The sphere of influence that we have is really the only place in which we can make lifelong sustainable change. We can use that sphere of influence to influence others from our successes and from the wisdom that we gain. But ultimately, if we're waiting for some massive global government or corporate initiative to be able to help us to deal with the issues around water, then as we like to say here, we're going to be waiting a very long wait indeed. So the best place to start is right in your own home. Now let's take a look at some of the alternatives that they've got, because we've got issues that we need to understand that help us to make better decisions about how to protect ourselves, our water supply, and where the future of water is going to make an incredible impact in your financial situation and in the financial situation of the world. If you take water and you peg it alongside the primary and known valuable commodities, gold, silver, oil, uranium, what you're going to find is over the course of the last 5 years, water has increased in value above all of them. And over the course of the next 5 years, it is going to continue on that trend. So it's really important that we understand these issues and that we dig a little bit deeper. Let's get in the deep end together, because the deep end is the place that we're going to get the answers that we need. We've spent over 3 years researching what's going on and have some great solutions. This isn't just about problems. This is about education for the purpose of solutions. We like to say we thirst for freedom. And with the truth, there is freedom. So let's break down some truths. First and foremost, let's take a look at the tap water situation. There's a lot of people that just say, my tap water's fine where I am. But I want to just point out to you that with a little bit of research, and we can assist you with this, in the tap water that you're dealing with, especially given that even if you've got a really great groundwater supply, which some of North America has right now, you've got the issues associated with the addition of chlorines and fluorides into the water. Now, fluorides are really something to be super, super cautious about, especially when it comes to children in their development years. Recent studies have shown us that we're giving up to 7 IQ points for exposure to fluorine for any child that's in their development years. And we really do not want our kids to be giving up their intellectual assets for the purpose of supposedly protecting their teeth. There's a lot of good ways to protect your teeth that have nothing to do with fluoride. So we want to be super skeptical in relationship to tap water. The chlorine elements are adding a different kind of complexity to the issue. Now listen, I'm not trying to dump on the municipalities or the water utilities. They're doing the best that they can with antiquated technology and an average age right now in North America of pipes leading into your house are probably somewhere between 40 and 60 years old. Some of the older centers in Canada and the United States or overseas in Europe are dealing with water pipe infrastructure that's over 100 years old. So they're trying to take all of these measures from a municipal standpoint in the distribution of water, cleaning it in every way that they possibly can, and then pushing that water into pipes that have got some significant issues. So by the time it winds up in your kitchen, we've already talked about some of the chemical additives, fluoride and chlorine in particular, because it is going to interact with organic material and oxygen to produce something called HAA5. Now, this has kind of gotten a little bit more on radar over the course of the last couple of years, but HAA5 is a byproduct of those interactions and is a known carcinogen. So really what we're saying, and I think most of us know this already, is that drinking water straight from the tap for you or for your pets or livestock or whatever it is not really a safe alternative. And the safety of that alternative is declining and will continue to decline for the years to come. So our second issue, what most people do is when they see that there's a problem, and we wrote a really interesting article about this last year that compares the new knowledge that was transpiring in the 1950s and 60s that had to do with smoking. And one of the major responses from the manufacturers of tobacco products at that point in time was to really push hard on filters. We're going to put filters on everything and it's going to make everything okay. I want to speak specifically to filters because what we're dealing with, if you've noticed the filtration system, if you've got one in your house or you've been looking at one, what are they all made out of? They're all plastic devices that have got polymembranes inside of them. And that's going to take us back to the word chlorine one more time, because the chlorine issues in the water are imperative to understand because those polymembranes in reverse osmosis and basic filtration systems cannot stand up to exposure to chlorine over a long period of time. So this is what happens. We wind up installing a filtration device of some kind into our home, and we're fairly confident that we have got filtered water. Now there's another downside to that we'll get into after we discuss the chlorine issues. Because what's going on is that polymembrane, that plastic filtration membrane, is attacked and it gets built up with more and more and more garbage. Then we wind up with crash events in filters that actually in many cases wind up producing a lower quality of water than what was coming out of the tap. One of the major issues is that we wind up with buildups of nanoplastics, forever chemicals, and other debris in those filters in combination with the destruction of that polymembrane due to chlorine and the exposure of all of it to the organic materials and the air that is naturally the oxygen that's naturally occurring in water. We're right back at that interaction again that's producing HAA5 and degrading the overall water. We've got one other issue with regard to the filtration process, and especially reverse osmosis systems, because as the cost of dealing with wastewater increases, and there's a lot of complexity associated with that, but let me boil it down for you. What's going on as the levels of nano and microplastics and forever chemicals in sewage water, and guys, even pharmaceuticals, continues to increase, the load at the utility side of the universe with sewer water gets higher and higher and higher with regard to how do they filter all of this garbage out so that they can return it back to a natural water source. And this is a really major issue. A lot of people that are inspecting their water bills are noticing, and have noticed over the course of the last number of years, that they've had a steady increase in the price associated with the disposal, their sewer water. And I'll tell you right now, that price is going to increase. This brings me back to reverse osmosis systems. A bad reverse osmosis system is going to give up to 12 gallons of water, pushing it against the membrane. That pressure of separation causes an overload or a higher PSI ratio, which the design of the product pushes water back into the sewage system so that it doesn't explode in dealing with the pressure interactions that are going on. So bad system, like I was saying, we lose up to 12 gallons. A great system, losing 2 to 3 gallons for every gallon of water that you're using in your house. And North American water consumption is through the roof. Every time you flush the toilet, every time you do laundry, every time you wash, you do the dishes, you have a shower or a bath, you're consuming gallons and gallons and gallons of water every single day. And if you think that 2, 3, up to 12 times the amount of water that you're using is winding up going in the sewer system, then reverse osmosis and, of course, the plastic membrane filtration issues begin to mount up on both sides of the ledger. One, you never know if you've had a crash event, so you don't really know whether you're drinking safe water. 2, you've taken all of the minerals out of the water that you need in order to be properly hydrated and healthy. Listen, can you stay alive drinking water without minerals? Yeah, you can stay alive, but you cannot be healthy. And as the rates of minerals, vitamins, all of the natural elements are decreasing year over year because of vast commercial farming related issues, we have to rely more and more on hydration to get minerals and vitamins back into our body in a really natural way. It's one of the things that we focused on over the course of the last couple of years. Now listen, so we've got the issue with regard to the tap, we've got the issues with regard to reverse osmosis systems and basic plastic polymembrane filtration, and we've got the issues with regard to sewer water waste, which has led a lot of people in North America, I mean a ton of people right now, about $54 billion a year is being spent on water in plastic bottles. Now, guys, this is a major crisis. Because first and foremost, some of the most recent studies that have been done at the university health level, and they're published through PubMed and a number of other sources, if you even just Google search them, plastic in my brain. Okay, now plastic in your brain is one marker to measure, but over the course of the last number of years, we've seen those plastic numbers increase, not just in your brain, but in all of the vital organs in your body. We're talking about microplastics and forever chemicals finding their way into every major tissue, organ, and system inside your body, right down to placenta, breast milk, sperm. All of the major issues are pointing in the same direction, and that is that our health is being compromised. They think that about 90% of the exposure to plastic in your brain is coming directly from drinking liquids out of plastic bottles. Now listen, you might be saying to me, how is that possible? I walk into Costco or Walmart or any of the major supermarket chains, and I see down the aisle row after row after row of different kinds of products, sodas and waters and every imaginable thing, all plastic packaged. This is the significant issue that we have to take a look at. I think a lot of us have thought for years that these major corporations and retail chains ultimately would have our best interest at heart, and if they didn't have our best interest in heart, then certainly somebody at a local government or federal government level would have our best interest at heart. But this is the issue. The plastics manufacturing universe is supported by the petrochemical industry. We have to remember that plastic is an oil-based product. And so the petrochemical industry, the oil industry, which has incredible lobbying power, every single time that there's a major government, or right now an international initiative that's being headed by the UN to deal with plastic consumption and single-use plastic, guess who pushes back super hard on trying to avoid that legislation from transpiring? Yeah, you got it. It's the oil industry. The oil industry supports the plastic industry. The plastic and the oil industries combine to place unwarranted pressure upon government officials, which over the course of the last number of decades, despite the fact that we've got study after study after study showing us that plastic is not a safe product to put water, soft drinks, or food in. It's certainly not a safe product to microwave anything in, cook in, or store in, because all of those nanoplastics are sharding off into them. They are creating a trap inside of our body, which builds up and builds up and builds up. And as it builds up, we have a marked decline in our health. And right now, they're believing that marked decline in our health is going to be led by issues associated with our brains, okay? Some of the early onset of the issues associated with dementia and dementia-related diseases are being shown to have a direct correlation now between plastic entering our bodies and building up inside of our brains. So the plastic water bottle industry has a major statistic to deal with right now, and that is that 90% of the buildup of microplastics, nanoplastics in people's brains, which right now they say the average person walking around has got the equivalent of about a plastic teaspoon of nanoplastics lodged into their brains, is coming from drinking liquids out of plastic bottles. So here we are. Reverse osmosis and basic filtration systems, tap-related issues, and issues with regard to water in plastic bottles are all no, no, no. And we're going to add one more no in relationship to this, and that is the view that somehow basic filtration and all the rest of these issues that we're trying to deal with everywhere returning is somehow going to lead us back into a place where we can have properly mineralized water. All of the different things that we've talked about today all have a root cause problem of getting properly mineralized water into your body. Now listen, your body needs to have whole sodiums in order to properly invite hydration into your cellular structure. The invitation of water into your cellular structure is completing the distribution of hydration through all of the systems in your body. But it's also doing something else when it is exposed to electrolytes, and that is the dissipation, the removal of toxins and things that are trying to be discharged by your cells into the body so that they can be dealt with and removed properly. So if you're drinking water that doesn't have the right whole sodium levels associated with it, doesn't have magnesium, doesn't have potassium, doesn't have all of the vast majority of the trace minerals that you need, then you are not going to be as healthy as you need to be, and you're not supporting your body to do what it needs to do, and that is to cleanse and heal on a regular basis. That's one of the reasons why 3+ years ago, we started taking a look at all of these issues and trying to figure out what would be the smartest and most sustainable way for somebody to be able to protect themselves, protect their family, protect their community, or their customers and employees from all of the water crisis issues. And I'm going to say the words water crisis one more time, because those are two words that we're going to have to become more and more familiar with as the next few years pan out. And we want to be ahead of this, because people don't make good decisions in crisis mode. But those who are prepared ahead of time and who do the research and are properly educated and just take the time to stop, drop, and roll. And one of the best analogies in the world of crisis management is somebody who's trained to stop, drop, and roll when they catch on fire versus somebody who runs around hoping somebody else is going to put them out. Strategy 1 is far more valuable than strategy 2. And this is where we're at. What we wanted to do is figure out what was the most sustainable way for us to be able to create water that the people that we were training and teaching and working with and sharing knowledge with would understand was literally being cleaned to a point, 99.9% cleansed, where it needed to be brought back to life again. It needs to have minerals added to it, and that needs to be a really specific step that we understand to overcome this problem, okay? So when we looked at all the rest of these alternatives, we started focusing on one of the oldest water purification technologies known to mankind, a few thousand years invested in the understanding of basic distillation. Now, there are some people that will say, well, distillation doesn't actually remove all of the contaminants from water, but it's a misnomer because proper distillation has to include activated charcoal in the final step to deal with volatiles. Now, once you've combined activated charcoal, and we're talking about micropacks that are completely sustainable, our sourcing is coming from coconut farms that are converting their coconut shells into charcoal, which is an incredible way to do that final filtration step to make sure that you've got 99.9% pure water that is literally dead. It's dead water. Distilled water we're going to call dead water. And at I Drink Living Water, what we're trying to do is figure out how do we take that dead water that we know is completely clean and turn it into living water with a really simple aeration step and the addition of what we call the Ancient Mind Trace Mineral Blend. Now, one of the reasons that we wanted to do that was because if you're adding whole sodiums back, and sea salt has been incredibly popular over the course of the last couple of years, anybody that's an influencer or talking about health-related issues with regard to hydration are very, very quick to recommend to people that they consume sea salt. And sea salt is fantastic. But if you've noticed what's going on with regard to the major oceans of the world, the buildup of nano and microplastics is affecting the naturally mined sea salt industry. We've got a lot of issues with regard to how do we separate nanoplastics and forever chemicals from sea salt as those contaminants build up in the world's oceans. So what we wanted to do is spend some time with regard to sourcing to figure out how do we get sea salt from ancient sources prior to the time that forever chemicals and nanoplastics were a part of life, and have them deep mined along with other whole products that are mineral based, so that when we have a blend, we know that that blend is going to not just put microplastics and forever chemicals back into the water that we've just cleaned. It's an amazing and important part of what we've done from a research standpoint. So there you have it. We wanted to make sure that there was a process that was completely sustainable, a process that would protect your family from nano and microplastics as those issues increase, a process that was not going to waste water. One of the reasons that we really like distillation, especially distillation that's hooked up to any kind of green power, so if you've got any kind of solar, wind support systems where you are, distillation becomes an even better evaluated opportunity for you to clean water, so that you've got not waste energy being put into it, but green energy being put into it. You're producing water that is virtually 1 gallon in and 1 gallon out, probably losing about a half an ounce of water, and that half ounce actually isn't water. It's being separated because it's anything but water. When we take a look at some of the stuff that comes out of our tap on a daily basis, it makes me wonder how many days could a filter the size of a loaf of bread take to be filled up with all of the garbage that we're seeing coming out of just 1 gallon of water. Where we are, we would probably have to change filters on a 3 to 5 day basis in order to keep up with the loads that are coming through the taps that we want to make sure are gone. So really, let's recap for a second. It's imperative for us to understand that the tap water issues are going to get worse. The issues associated with the sewer costs and the separation of those sewage sludges that are being inculcated with pharmaceuticals, forever chemicals, and we've mentioned phthalates already, nano and microplastics is going to increase, and that issue of what to do, not just with the water, but the sludge that is produced, is a growing concern all across the world right now because these issues are going to intensify. We're in the middle of something that is going to get worse a long time before it gets better. And it's one of the reasons why we wanted to focus here on decentralized science innovation. We've got small groups of people all around the globe that are working on water crisis issues in their own spheres of influence. And many of them are not properly funded because the world wants to chase Bitcoin and gold and silver, oil and uranium, misunderstanding that the most valuable commodity on the planet and the commodity that is going to increase in value the most over the course of the next 5 to 10 years is water. So we want to be making incredibly good financial decisions and stewardship decisions to invest in global projects that are focused on cleaning up plastic and forever chemicals, focused on trying to use advanced AI-based technologies to deal with real-time systems that help to clean and protect water, and the support of NGOs and charities that are on the front line dealing with that over 2 billion people growing to over 4 billion people over the next 4 years that do not have enough water. Listen, that's the treatise with regard to what's going on in the wonderful world of water. I wanted to just let you know, be mindful with regard to how much water that you're wasting. It's bad for the planet, but it's also going to be bad for you economically. So you have to make sure that you're really balancing your view of water use from an economic and from an environmental perspective. Secondly, we want to just redress the point. You can be drinking water and you can be alive, but unless that water is properly mineralized, you are not going to be as healthy as you should be. Your vitality, your ability to sleep, your ability to lose weight, your ability to think properly are all based on drinking properly mineralized water. There's a lot of people that are in the hydration community that believe a lot of the hypertension and high blood pressures and diabetes issues that the Western lifestyle is producing, a lot of them are rooted in the basic simple fact that people are dehydrated and drinking water without proper mineral content in them. And we've also recapped some of the things that we want to be mindful and stay away from, or that we want to use sparingly. And one of them certainly is water in plastic bottles. And we've talked through reverse osmosis systems and plastic-based filtration, which leads us back to how do we make the lifestyle changes associated with distillation. Now listen, I'm calling it a lifestyle change because it really is. You have to develop a different kind of pattern in your life to be able to properly use the fundamentals of distillation. We want to make sure that we're kind of getting into it in a completely different way. I look at the distillation systems that we've set up here as being the same kind of idea associated with that decision that some of us made to get off of fast food or pre-prepared food as much as we possibly could and start cooking again from natural and organic products, which is another great way to keep forever chemicals and microplastics out of your body and out of your family. But whenever you prepare a meal and you put that extra attention, love, and care into it, doesn't it just taste better? I mean, maybe there's a couple of mistakes at the beginning of the day where you think, gee whiz, I wouldn't add so much salt next time. But I think overall, when you've prepared something yourself, it takes on an intrinsic value of the hope, the care, the love, and the joy that you're putting into doing it. And focusing now on water with that spiritual principle of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, long-suffering, gentleness, self-control, faithfulness. Those things wind up being pressed into the water that you are cleaning, creating, remineralizing, and re-aerating for you and for your family. And guess what? The water tastes better. And when the water tastes better, guess what? We drink more of it. And when we drink more of it, we feel better. We lose weight. We slip out of depression. We deal with high blood pressure. We prevent cancers. We step forward with regard to coming off of medications for diabetes. We see all of these amazing things transpire in our lives because we stopped, we dropped, we rolled, and we made a really great decision that was based on information. We've got guides that are available at the I Drink Living Water website. We give that material out for free to people so that they can protect themselves, protect their families, protect their pets from microplastics. We've got a document called Make Water Your Business that outlines a lot of the things that I've covered and even gives ratings. We even use large language models to verify our findings so that we can press in even harder to make sure that we are giving you the very best information that we possibly can. Again, it's I Drink Living Water. Like, link, subscribe, and make water your business. We like to say, thirst for freedom. We want to be free from all of this stuff. And we want to be making great decisions, and we want to be prepared as the world inches closer and closer and closer to an inevitable water crisis that is spreading its boundaries across the planet. So let's get involved. Let's support in community all of the amazing people that are doing incredible things to help clean oceans and lakes and rivers, that are working on decentralized science projects that are helping with regard to the wastewater issues that we're facing and helping to get good, clean, viable water into the mouths of people all across the world who are struggling with issues associated with thirst.